Go in 3. Hey, everybody. Welcome to a very LeBrock. I tried to come up with something clever, and it doesn't work with the hey, everybody.
Don't come a knocking when we're LeBrocking.
Oh, that's good.
There it is.
I did the on the next, and the entire, like, I was walking downstairs to get set up and do everything, and I'm like, for those about to LeBrock, like, that's amazing. I'm gonna use that. And then I recorded it, and then I like put everything up, and I'm like, fuck, I completely forgot the LeBrock thing. I'm not going to redo it, but Small Town Failing Podcast. I am Joe, your host. Those wonderful tones that you hear are Ariel and Rachel from the Zombie Grrlz horror podcast. Is it network? I always say network, and I wonder if I sound like like an old man saying like like the New York Metropolitans are my favorite baseball team. Like,
and we drive in taxi cabs and use
exactly. You put on get your dungarees on.
Well, thank you so much for having us back. I'm glad we didn't completely weird you out with our thoughts on the past last time we were here.
Yeah.
I was worried that you both would not come back after I made you watch softcore porn. Like,
no, but it was so much fun to talk about that weird, horny movie.
I know. I love trauma bonding. Are you kidding?
Well, there was like, we'll get into it, but the movie we watched for this episode, A Prince for Christmas, and I'll explain the thing I was just talking about, and then we'll get into the reason why we watched this. But there are scenes where like the main character in this does seem like she's starting to get like a little horned up, and I'm like, oh my god, like, is this happening again? Because this movie, it's not Hallmark. I think it was on Stars originally. So I've never watched a sort of rom-com Hallmark-esque movie directly from Stars. And I was like, oh my God, do they have like sex in here? Because there is like a fight. Like there's like a fist fight that breaks out, which I was kind of surprised. But I'm like, dear God, did I do it again? Like,
I think we're like slowly developing a spinoff, which is like Small Town Failing After Dark.
Starting to think Joe's just trying to get us to watch porn with him. Like, it's real weird. So anyway, I think you have been on, I think both of you about 3 times now, and you run the Zombie Grrlz podcast amongst a few others under the umbrella or network, as the kids call it. And you recently did an episode on Lisa Frankenstein, and then had a sort of comparison to Weird Science, which got me thinking about Kelly LeBrock, which got me thinking about, I wonder if there's a Hallmark movie with Kelly LeBrock in it. There's not, but there's this one that we watched that was on Stars. So that was like the trajectory. But the more important thing here is Lisa Frankenstein. I think you both loved it, I believe.
Loved it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I have kids, so we have not seen it yet, but we're going to try. But you had some like very special guests on, right? To talk about it. Yes.
Yeah. Yes, we sure did. We had the pleasure of having both the director Zelda Williams and writer Diablo Cody on the show, and we exhibited zero cool, like absolute fangirl.
Yeah, it's a little tragic,
nonsense.
Honestly.
It is a little tragic.
That's awesome, though. Like, it seemed like they appreciated it too, that you were like legitimate fans. And so
gosh, I hope so. They were great. And we've wanted to interview Diablo Cody for years, so it was a real dream come true.
And even if they didn't, it's not like they walked off or just hung up. The show's done. So,
that's true. Yeah.
They could think whatever they want.
Yeah.
Nice.
It is not affecting my parasocial relationship with either of them.
Oh, they don't want to hang out anymore?
Exactly.
I always have this vision like of just messaging like Tom Hanks and being like, hey, you should come on. And he's just like, you know what? Yeah, like, let's do that. And then we hang out and become like best friends.
Maybe he had an edible and he's just like, sure, why not?
You never know until you try,
You could do one of his wife's movies. It'd be amazing.
I bet I could get Chet Hanks, though, the son. Have you heard him? Yeah.
Oh, yes, I've also seen the Z-Way with him. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
But
have you seen that? That is
no, I don't
peak.
even know what that is. What is it?
Oh, Joe. I have such sights to show you. Google Chet Hanks Z-Way and
Mm.
watch it tonight. It is the most uncomfortable but like wonderful 20 minutes of your life.
Oh, 20 minutes. Okay, so this isn't a movie. This is just like a viral
No,
video?
she is a woman of color who
Mhm.
interviews people and like makes
Oh,
them
yes.
uncomfortable
Yep.
kind of on purpose in ways that are like really illuminating. And he comes on and does like a Jamaican patois and like tries to
Yeah.
come on to her. It is amazing.
Where
I've only seen
100%.
clips of it. I'm gonna have to watch the whole thing.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think you and the wife need to check it out. You
Oh,
will be
100%. Because there was
yeah.
we saw a couple others of hers, and I don't remember who it was, but I remember it was
Mhm.
hilarious, and we said, "We have to watch this." And
Yes.
then
Forgot
we
immediately. Yeah.
yeah, like,
Weed
just
gummies. I got it.
yeah. "Oh, look, squirrels outside." Um, but I can imagine that this is amazing. So, yeah, it's on tap for tonight.
Yes.
Um, Wonderful.
My work
Alright,
here's done. Bye.
yeah. So so this movie, I mean, we kind of explained the setup, A Prince for Christmas. I'll be honest, when I went to watch it last night, I think started like 9 other movies with the word Prince in it by accident. And
There are
I'm
a
like,
lot.
Where's Kelly LeBrock? Because there's like a Prince for Christmas,
Mhm.
Christmas Prince,
Yes.
Prince and the New Revolution Christmas. Like there's just a lot. But I know, Ariel, you are a fan of the Hallmarks, and Rachel, you will watch them.
I am a tolerator of the Hallmark.
Yeah.
For you, Joe. She only watches them for you.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
But Ariel, do you venture outside of the Hallmark, like into the just the verse, or what's your sort of
Yeah, I mean,
limitations?
like, I've seen probably all of the Christmas movies that Netflix has made.
Oh,
I
nice.
Yeah, I used to watch the ABC's, like, 21 Days of Christmas or whatever they did, the
Mhm.
ABC Family ones. Lifetime, basically anything, I'll watch it if it's Christmas
Okay.
related. And
Because
I've
this was the
watched
first
a
time.
lot of the
Oh yeah,
Christmas
go ahead.
Prince
Sorry.
ones. Like, there are so many Christmas movies with princes or princesses in
Yeah.
them. So many. And I've probably seen like 90% of them. So it's a sickness. I don't know what to tell you.
I have not seen many, honestly, and honestly, this may be my first.
Oh.
There's something about like kings and queens and the whole like royalty thing. Like it just does not interest me. But like Leslie, my wife, is like batshit loves it. Like we literally, some a friend that I work with, we went out to dinner with them a couple weeks ago because her husband is from the UK, and we just had questions about like nothing like important. It was like we wanted to know like what's the Jersey Shore of the UK or like regions
Yeah.
and like that sort of thing. Which, by the way, if you've ever watched Geordie Shore, their
I
version of it,
have. Ooh,
no
that is
joke.
some delightful trash.
Oh,
Leslie
really?
and I have watched all 22 seasons
Oh my
like
God.
over the last year. It was like our nightly for about 2 years of like, all right, we watched our usual shows. Now we're wrapping up the evening. Like, let's just put this on and fall asleep. And like, we would stop to watch like full seasons of Love Island and then go back in. Like, it was like a 2 or 3 year commitment to get through everything. And
Oh my God.
if
I'm
you,
impressed.
Ariel, it's wow. Like, it makes the Jersey Shore look like, I don't even know, like a Hallmark movie. Like it is unreal.
That's
The
crazy.
debauchery. Yeah.
Uh-huh. The little bit that I've seen of it, that was definitely my vibe. Like I was trying to scratch the Jersey Shore itch, and I was like,
Yes.
"Oh, this is some deep end Jersey Shore."
There was a time or because we would watch and then something insane would happen and we'd be like, that's the most insane thing we've ever seen. But then I was like, but I know that we've seen other things and said that. Is this more insane? So we started keeping like a running list of like, all
Oh
right,
my God,
this
I
is
love that.
now. And the last one, let me see. I actually have it in front of me.
Oh my God, I love is it in a spreadsheet? This is amazing.
It's in just a draft for Gmail. But the last
Amazing.
one was Chloe, one of the main people on there,
Uh-huh.
literally like when like pissed and shit on the floor in the middle of their kitchen while everyone was eating.
No.
Yes.
Wow.
What?
Yup.
She wasn't
Run,
even home
don't
alone when
walk to
people were
catch up on
there?
this is what I'm hearing.
It is.
Dear God.
And like I think the one before was like somebody spit in somebody else's mouth and then they had sex. Like it was
Oh
there's
my.
so much sex on the show. Like it's Jersey, they spend like most of their time trying to get women to
Right.
come back. This was
Yeah.
just like every night, at least one person, like if not more.
Wow.
Like it
Wow.
is, yeah, it's
Incredible.
bananas.
That sounds intense.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
go back. Like I said, I watched a little bit, but I felt like it was I don't know that I was ready for it, but I feel
yeah.
like a few more years, a few more, little
The good thing is too,
dying
like
inside, I can
you
handle it now.
literally could turn on any episode at any time and like have context, like because
Really?
there's no character arc, there's no
Oh.
storyline, like no one is redeemed. It's literally just like
Oh.
new season. This is what we're doing. We're trying to have sex, and then like it ends and then there's another and it just starts over. Sometimes people come back, sometimes there's new people. Usually there's no explanation of like where they went or like if they're coming back. Like
Jesus.
Wild.
Sounds like a fever dream.
there's I'm not even kidding, and then I'll shut up. There is one episode where one of the characters literally just bolts down the stairs in the morning, runs out the front door, pulling his suitcase on those Heelys where you like zoom.
Uh-huh.
And then that's it. That's the last time you ever see him. Like there's no
He
explanation.
just
There's
zooms
nothing.
out of there and he's
It was
gone.
just like Justin had to leave early. And then it was just like, okay. Like, and you never see him again.
Oh my god, that's so
What the
random.
It
hell?
was,
I would need more closure than that. Or is that
Yeah.
part of the charm? Like
you're
you're like,
not
I
going to
don't
get
even
it.
want to know.
You don't even want to know. Like sometimes people will disappear for like half the season and then you can do some digging and find out they were in rehab. Like there's just,
Okay.
Gotcha.
there's no rhyme or reason.
This is coming together for me.
Literally Leslie and I like rant about it to everyone, and like no one ever watches and we're like, you don't get it. You don't get how weird this show is.
Oh
So
man.
yeah, do you want to wrap this up or are we good here?
I mean, to be honest, Joe, I can talk about anything with you.
Yeah.
Like, that's
We
the
should.
danger.
All We should talk about the movie though. So A Prince
Yes.
for Christmas, 2015. I think we mentioned a couple times. It was originally on Stars, but honestly, it's on YouTube streaming. All
Mhm.
you have to do is Google it with the correct name and you'll get there. Um, directed by Fred Olin Ray. And if you recognize his name, then you're probably a dirty birdie because he has about 300 credits on his IMDb page. They go back maybe like 15 years, and about halfway through, it all turns to Skinamax.
Oh,
Like,
really? Oh,
nothing
interesting.
but Super Ninja Doll, girl with the sex ray eyes, the girl
Yes.
from Bikini.
Sex
And then
ray
it's
eyes.
like eventually it's like The Accidental Christmas and
I mean, that
A
could go
hard
either
left
way.
turn.
That could go
Well,
either
there's-
way.
they do for a while go like Bikini Frankenstein came next, then Bikini Royal 2, Sexual Witchcraft, but then it's like holiday road trip. All I want for
What?
Christmas in Palm Springs, which now that I'm reading them, I'm like, those could 100% be
They could go
Skinamax
either
movies
way.
also.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he
Yeah.
has such a serial killer name, though. He has like the 3 name.
Three names.
Like that man
There's-
has been on a grassy knoll.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's interesting. There is a lot of crossover of like B or like low budget horror movies, and then
Mhm.
a lot of the directors you see like start to get involved with Hallmark. We actually
Mhm.
talked about it a lot on the last episode with Eric, but
Mhm.
I haven't not seen a lot of Skinamax into Hallmark. Like I got to imagine that's a rough like resume to hand in.
Yeah, that's
Like,
a weird
when you're
trajectory
interviewing.
for sure.
I
Yeah.
mean, they're both very formulaic, though. Like in some
Mm.
I
ways,
guess that's true.
like
Yeah.
they're the same movie, except for that they go all the way.
That's
Like the
what-
sister doesn't bust up the kiss, and they get upside, or inside for those wild oats.
Well, that's what Leslie and I always joke about, that like I know there's porn that they just edit down for Skinamax,
Yeah.
but what if there's porn that they edit down for Skinamax and then edit it down for Hallmark? Like there's got to be some sort of like, if we just cut out all the sex, then it's a Hallmark movie.
Yeah.
And then if we keep that in, then it's a Skinamax, and then it just eventually works its way up. Like
TM, that's our idea. No one make money off this idea.
I mean, if anyone's gonna do it, it's gonna be Fred. Like
Fred's got the chops.
because he also apparently co-wrote this, so I feel like he's the one to make this happen.
And also the one to blame for some of these weird lines.
We're gonna talk about them.
I cannot wait to get into it. Starring Viva Bianca, who I didn't recognize from anything, but I thought she was very good in this, actually. And then Kirk Barker, who has been in just about any Hallmark movie where they needed a British guy. And then the other one that I want to point out is Todd. The guy who played him was Aaron O'Connell, who was in a movie that we did for the show that now I'm blanking on the name, but Elisa was on the episode where he played like literally a mannequin that comes to life every night.
That makes sense.
That's good casting, actually.
I can buy that.
Like as soon as he walked in, I'm like, I recognize that guy. Made for Each Other was the movie, but he was in there. So, and then I should say Kelly LeBrock plays Prince Duncan's mother, Queen Ariana, and then Maxwell Caulfield, I'm probably saying it right, who was also on something like a Butler movie that we did with Caitlin, actually, from Plug It Up. But he is better known as Rex Manning from Empire Records. So
also the cool writer from Grease 2.
Oh my God.
I haven't seen Grrlz 2 since I was like 10 years old. I did not remember that.
This made me think that I need to go back and rewatch it.
Yeah.
Because it's been a long time.
It is. That's it's not great, but it's very I don't even know what you compare it to, like Moulin Rouge or something. Or what was that one with not Lady Gaga? What's it? Cher was in it, and
Burlesque.
Yes. That.
Amazing.
Leslie and I watched that for the first time over the summer, and like halfway through, we're like, is there a nitrous leak in here or something? Like,
did you have to watch a Dirty Shore as a palate cleanser?
So the setup here is Emma, who is our main character, is living in this small town in upstate New York, just outside of Buffalo. If anyone's interested, I actually looked up. It's a real town, and that restaurant they go to later on is like a real place.
Okay.
Which just so happens to be like maybe 15 minutes out of the way for the next time I drive back to my hometown to see my parents. So
you should go.
Will you be dining?
There may be a report. It looks very nice.
Pics. We want a full review. Make sure you get what was it, like the truffle stuffed something.
There was nothing there. That was the first thing we did. We looked at the menu to see if like any of the stuff he was rattling off was actually on their menu, and it is not. It looks like a very nice place, but no.
Because you know what England is known for? It's fine dining and cuisine. Nothing says like suet.
We'll get into that, but like the whole diner. So Emma owns a diner in this small town. We found that her parents have passed away, which it's not really a spoiler, but they passed away in a car crash while getting a Christmas tree. As you do. So she inherited her dad's diner. Her heart's not really in it, but she wants to keep it going because of her father and how much she misses them. She's also taking care of her younger sister. So they're both in this town. And then the juxtaposed is that the right? That sounds like
that's right. Yeah, nailed it.
Eric was here. Prince Duncan is, the son of the king and queen of this small town, which I think he rattles off the name at some point, but it doesn't seem particularly important for the movie. And this is where the movie immediately starts to borrow from Coming to America. If you've ever seen that.
Of course.
So did either of you make this connection by chance? Because
no.
like, really?
I mean, it makes it now that you're saying it, it makes perfect sense. I mean, he even finds someone that he falls in love with at an eatery. Like it really
That's
is
the thing.
lifted. And
So he
the ballet follows him. Oh my god, it's all coming
it's
together.
all coming in. So
Sexual chocolate.
exactly. Uh, there was a point where I was like, this is not great. I may just turn it off and just, or no, I said like, if there's, if he goes to America to like find a wife, I'm like, I think I got the gist of this and I don't need to finish and I could just fake it. But so the coming to America thing, Prince Duncan is in an arranged marriage. He's scheduled to be wed in about 2 weeks. Kelly LeBrock, which is how I think we should refer to in this.
Yes.
Not,
Queen
not
LeBrock,
why.
yeah.
Yeah. Has like sort of arranged this gigantic wedding and it's supposed to be this huge event. And apparently like the PR for the country that they're king and queen of is not great. Like I didn't fully follow what was going on there, but like they needed some good news. So this wedding was supposed to a lot is really hanging on it. But Prince Duncan is not interested in, being wed to someone he doesn't know coming to America. And decides that he is going to scurry off and disappear and go to New York.
Coming to America.
So here's the weird thing. Do you remember the beginning of Coming to America where it opens and Arsenio Hall and Eddie Murphy are like fighting with those sticks and doing all that stuff? The first time we see Duncan.
Oh my god, I hadn't even thought of that. You're right.
He is fencing or whatever with Jeffrey, the butler. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. If you actually look at the trivia for this movie, or the references, there's only 2. It says that it references Doctor Who because at one point Todd insults Prince Duncan by calling him Doctor Who.
Roasted.
And the other reference, it literally just says, this movie borrows heavily from Coming to America.
It sure does. Holy shit.
Now I kind of want to know if this guy's like... I just kind of want to know if it's like softcore porn is also borrowed from other movies, like what other movies is he stealing from?
I wish I couldn't answer that, but like absolutely they are. Like what is it? Like there's the Bear Wench Project. Like there's all these like those clever names that they come up for these. Like 90% of those are Hallmark. Like if you just scroll through this guy's like history, I'm sure he's
really
got like
have a movie called the Bear Wench Project?
He did not direct that one.
Okay.
But that one I do, and I've heard it may be okay. Constantly being on he mentioned constantly being on Cinemax back when we used to have it.
Gotcha.
But there's all like these other ones with ridiculous names. So yeah, 100% they do. Where the hell were we?
Coming to America. Yeah.
There we go. So Duncan heads to New York, and he doesn't particularly say like what his plans are, right? Like he's just going to like be free and get away for a while. Which question for both of you, did you think it was weird how relaxed his parents were about this? That like they woke up in the morning and their son wasn't there and his bags were gone. Yeah. And they were like, oh, he's probably just out like exploring,
Yeah, it was strange because you'd think they would have been upset because the wedding is coming because he just took off and they seem to be like really needing him to get married. And it wasn't just like a casual thing.
Exactly.
So the fact that they didn't really care was odd.
I think we may have drilled down to the problem with the PR problem in that country.
Potentially, yeah. But also, like, I don't know, being a parent, my first thought would be, all right, he's been kidnapped and murdered. Like, there was no panic of like, okay, could something else have happened? Like, is there any possibility that like, he left and is now like lying in a ditch? It's like, nah, he's probably like off doing something fun, like.
Yeah, well, he has those sweet fencing skills. He'll be all right.
That is true.
He can defend himself.
So Kelly LeBrock is kind of tense about this because she's like, what about the wedding? What if this doesn't happen? It's too late to call this thing off. So like she is stressed. Rex Manning, is kind of fine, but does send Jeffrey, the butler, after him to, just kind of keep an eye. And we're not really spoiling anything, but there is a bit of like, for some reason Prince Duncan is paying in cash, but then like accidentally uses his credit card one place, so that's how he finds him. Like,
Yeah.
it didn't
I
seem very
assume it's
well
just
thought up.
like inbreeding, maybe.
Yeah.
You can cut that.
It's fine. There's no one listening. It's fine. So he's on his way to New York City. For some reason, I think he flies into Buffalo, which is like a 9-hour drive, rather than into JFK or something convenient. And his car breaks down in this small town where Emma has her diner, and things escalate quickly. Like in the course of 3 days, I think, right? Like this whole thing takes place. And I want to ask you both if I missed something, because we'll talk more about the scene, but like Duncan goes in to the diner, they meet, it's fine, you know, the other waitress is sassy, he sends him on his way. The next day, like when they see each other on the street, it seems like they're just full on almost in love. Like, I
Yeah.
missed the like chemistry leading up to this, or did I like fall asleep or something?
Well, I mean,
Like,
King Rex Manning did say it's different, and you know, and they had that moment where they just stared at each other across a parking lot, and I think that was when they fell in love.
Yeah, I think that was supposed to be the moment, and then the sister just had to kind of like get them in the same room together for them to
Mhm.
realize it.
When you have
it
that kind of
was
like animal chemistry, like there's no denying it. There's no need for conversation. Just snow angels in the future.
I was legit like, should I rewind? Like, I feel like I have to have missed something, like, you know,
Yeah.
some sort of real kismet.
I feel
But
like it's
no.
always fast in these kind of movies, but this one
Mhm.
was like even faster.
Yeah,
We didn't
like
have the like we hate each other first beat. It was
no.
straight to the I love them first.
Yeah, it was, we
Yeah.
met, now I'm in love with you.
This is the porn influence, I think.
Yeah. It's true. So, and then I don't know, where do we go from here? The whole setup is Prince Duncan is supposed to be going to New York and then getting back home to get married, and he breaks down in this town, and you know, he has to stay overnight to get his car fixed. But then the next day he misses his train because he's spending it with Emma, and then he just
Mhm.
doesn't leave. And then she wants to sell her diner, and like he starts helping there. Like it all escalates quickly.
Yeah.
But the important thing I want to ask is, what did you think of the line that Todd gave to Emma when he sat down and said, "What looks good today other than you?"
Well, my pants flew off my body.
He's a real charmer.
Spontaneously combusted. That and his, I mean, like, honestly, it is the battle of toxic dudes for this
Ah,
girl. Well, their first date is absolute insanity. There is an
mhm.
entire season of this podcast called Something Is Wrong about like that is this story. It's like a guy pretending to be like a British guy. Like as they're walking and he's telling her all of these like half truths about
Yeah.
his life. There, it's so insane. And I was like, this is why women fall for this shit
Mhm.
because we've been watching these Lifetime movies where like it might be a prince, like it might not be a con artist. It's always a con artist, ladies. Always.
100%. So even Todd, I thought, was interesting because honestly, in the first scene, it opens with him and Emma having like dinner or something,
Mhm.
and she is talking about how she wants to travel and just has like pamphlets of like France, London.
I know,
Like,
just the country.
she just kind of looks down every once in a while. And Todd's point is like, well, I'm working a lot right now, and like you are trying to get the diner up. And at a certain, I was like, I think I'm on board with Todd here. Like, Todd's being reasonable.
Yeah.
Emma just wants to like leave the diner behind and just go run to France. And it's like, you got to have some sort of income, Emma. But then Todd progressively amps up. Like, because
Yeah,
the
he
next
gets
scene
worse.
is the like, what looks good on the menu. Then the next scene,
A lot of arm grabbing.
he bumps into Duncan and is like, that's when he calls him Doctor Who. But like, they full on get into a fist fight. Like, Todd
Yeah.
takes a real steep climb up Asshole Mountain.
He sure
Yeah,
does.
he does.
Yeah. I mean, even from the beginning, he starts kind of like really twisting her arm, like using
Yeah.
his sister, her sister against her,
Yep.
and her education against her. I was like, oh, red flag. He may look like that mannequin, but red flag.
Yeah, it was real strange, and
Mm-hmm.
like at a certain point, like he gets so mean that you're like, he didn't just turn into this. Like he must have been a dick the entire time. And Emma seemed
Yeah.
like a smart person. Like, what's going on here?
Well, she said that they had known each other since they were kids, right? So maybe it's like
Mhm.
he used to
Small
be
town.
nice and she
That's
just never
true.
saw it.
Yeah,
Or there just were not other options. Yeah.
that is true. I mean, he's not a bad looking fella,
No.
so I guess I could see that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's a couple other things I want to talk specifically about the diner. One, and this was more Leslie's like rage, but a white refrigerator, like just in the back of a diner.
Did not see this coming. I thought you were going to talk about the menu.
Uh, I've got thoughts on that biscuits and gravy that they showed, but
looked
Okay,
pretty
thank you,
sad.
because that made me angry. I have never seen biscuits and gravy look so disgusting. I love biscuits and gravy, and they made it
yeah.
repulsive. How
Well,
dare
it
they?
looked like they took turkey gravy and just put it over some like
Yeah.
shitty, like freeze dried biscuits or something. Yeah. Yeah, the
Is
menu
pigs
was
in a
concerning.
blanket like a thing? You're an East Coast person. Is that a thing that shows up on menus and diners?
I literally have that. Who the hell serves pigs in a blanket at a
Okay,
diner?
I'm relieved to hear that because I was just like, as my fellow American, you deserve better. If this is what's happening in diners on the East Coast.
And also, like, why would that be her assumption? Like, yeah,
Yeah.
why don't you get this? Like, you probably love that. One of my notes was like, why is the waitress so angry? Like, why is she so pissed off all the time?
Yeah.
And like immediately hates Duncan too.
I
Whoever
feel
wrote
like
this
the
hates
movie
food. Because like his tasty treat that he suggests
Ugh.
later is like blood sausage and suet pudding. I'm like,
Yeah.
what is happening? This
Mhm.
is terrible.
I know.
Sorry, Ariel.
No, I was gonna say, I think one of the like recurring problems in this movie is that it tries to do that thing where you have like a town made up of quirky characters, but
Mhm.
it does not invest any time in any of them or know how to write them. So you could have a waitress who's kind of like a little bit angry and like brash, but she's also like, loving at heart or something. But
Yep. Yeah.
it doesn't get there with any of them.
No, I think that's a great point because like the other thing we noticed is like there's so many small pockets with these other characters, like
Yeah.
Max,
Mhm.
the chef. All of a sudden they throw in this like side story of him going to like culinary school, and like for some reason Duncan just has to sit next to him while he's filling out
For
the
like 15
application. Like,
minutes and then he
Egregious
can
line
pass the
1.
test.
yeah, oh yeah, go
Uh,
for it, please.
When he tells him he's never been good at school learning.
I
I was
know.
like,
What
excuse
the
me?
fuck?
In Black History Month? It is wildly problematic that
Oh
he
god,
needs
I
the white
know.
savior to help him with his book learning.
Yeah.
A
It had
grown ass man.
it felt real uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
yeah,
some reason he's like
Ooh.
a 12-year-old boy he's trying to tutor or something. It's
yeah.
ooh.
But then it turns out it's literally just filling out the form. And
Yeah.
then he takes the test by himself, like online. Like Duncan doesn't even
Yeah.
know that he took it.
No, and
Like,
he passes no problem like 5 minutes later, even though he's been
yeah,
supposedly
And then
studying
needs
for
to
years
be
and couldn't pass. What?
and then needs to be reassured that he did it all on his own like a
I
big boy.
know. He's like,
I
"Yeah,
was
that's
like,
right. I
what
did, didn't I?"
is
I just
happening?
thought it was kind of shitty that the script gave him an 89 on the test. Cause like that's good, but like, come on. Like
Yeah.
give him
Yeah, let him get an
90s, like
A.
something, you know?
Well, he's not good at book learning, so that's pretty good for Max. Do you want to hear my other egregious line
Oh yeah,
before? Because it's
absolutely.
okay. So, as you were saying, he's helping out. He's going to help bring the, like, get more business at the diner because the diner is not doing well. And what he says to her, I wrote this down because I was like, excuse me, where is everybody? It's deader than Mother's Day in an orphanage, he tells to
Yeah.
his orphan love interest. Literally That is
Oh, I didn't even piece that together.
Yeah, and her parents used to own the diner he's talking about, and they are now
That's
dead.
right.
I was like, wow. I mean, I like her quite a bit. She's a pretty good character, but man, is she, like, have some boundaries and some respect for yourself, Emma.
Right.
Holy shit. Do not be charmed by that.
No, her taste in
No.
men is questionable at best.
Yeah, yeah. Emma was real sporadic too, right? Like there
Mhm.
was at certain points, like I think it's their first like walk they take where like he or she pushes him down into the snow and stuff. Like
Yeah.
she seems very easily distracted and like redirected. Like you can just kind of point over there and she's like, "Oh yeah, I forgot that you're an asshole." Like, like there's a lot of weird tone shifts. Like
Yeah.
at one point she has this little speech about how like her happiness was all just an illusion or something. Like it got dark,
Yeah.
but then
Yeah.
she's kind of just like bopping around, like dancing in the snow and stuff. Like it was a real like weird choice with like how they went there.
I'm also a
Yeah,
little
well
concerned that she already has his password when they're on that first sled date. She's just like, boop, 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 boop. I was like, what in the Fatal Attraction is happening right now?
Real quick, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, this
Sorry,
movie
Ariel, you were gonna
does
say
no,
something.
it does feel like this movie, like, tries to go deep a few times, like, also with the
Mhm.
relationship between the
Yes.
sisters and, them wanting to celebrate Christmas or whatever, but it just you're right, it, like, forgets about it 30 seconds later and goes
Yep.
back to something totally inconsequential and, like, light and does not care about that plot line anymore.
Yep.
Although I did
Yeah.
like at one point the sister when she's explaining like the way we find out how the parents die is she's like,
Mhm.
"Emma, a Christmas tree didn't kill our parents. A car
That's right.
did." And like the way she says it is so ridiculous. Like nobody talks that
Someone
way.
give them a Peabody. Like, this is writing. I knew
Yeah.
everything I needed to know about the death of the parents in one line.
Yep. Perfection.
Economical.
Yeah, it's and I think that's like the thing that was so off-putting. And I will say I enjoyed this in a sort of like goofy way. Like
Yeah.
it reminds me of why Leslie and I first started watching these movies.
Right.
Just as kind of like lighthearted, you can kind of goof a bit. And then much like QVC, where we eventually started ordering things from
Oh, no.
QVC, like now we're like full in, like, oh no, this one's really good. And like, so we're fans, but yeah, just these like small little side stories that like never end up going anywhere. Like the
Yeah.
innkeeper was like a character and
Yeah.
Yeah.
like it just there was just a lot thrown into the soup and nobody stirred. Maybe
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I
that
mean,
sounds like a thing.
I think the plot line, even with like trying to save the diner, is that way. Like usually in these kinds of
Yeah.
movies, trying to save the small town or trying to save the kingdom or trying to save the business is like a big part of how the characters are drawn together and like what the plot revolves around.
Yep.
But here he like makes up a menu board and like sends somebody out to go grocery shopping, and that's
Yeah.
kind of the end of it. Like it never
Yeah.
really happens or comes up again. I also just have my doubts that like having an English breakfast in this tiny town's diner is going to save it when there's like 50 people in this town. And he
So-
wants to
Had
serve
English
poached eggs
breakfast?
and
It's
kippers.
terrible. It's
What are
Yeah.
are
terrible.
kippers
It's
fish? That
disgusting.
sounds gross.
Yes, they are.
Yeah,
So-
fish and poached eggs? I don't think so. No, thank you.
And baked beans and some blood sausage.
I grew up about 3 hours from where this was filmed or like where it actually takes
Mhm.
place, and I can 100% guarantee you, no, that diner will not be doing well.
Oh man. You know what though?
And-
This is I actually kind of prefer when they're real bad. Like this
Mhm.
is not that there have been some that we've watched that are not that bad. And there's
Yeah.
almost less to say about them and if
Yeah.
they're middle of the road. This one is kind of a disaster, but I found
Yeah.
myself entertained by
Yes,
it.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
like yeah, I'm glad that it just absolutely was swung and a miss like across the board because now it's entered into the so bad it's good territory. Like I was just laughing at the absurdity by the end and having a great time.
It's weird because I took notes and I kind of had a structure of like, all right, here's how the movie flowed. And now that we're talking about it, I see like none of it as like, conversation. It's more just like remember when they did this? That was weird. And like that's like, I could not tell you like the flow of things. I can just tell you like weird things that happen in every scene. Like when they go on their first date and it's very romantic. But then her sister is standing there playing violin, watching them have a romantic
I
dinner.
know. In an empty restaurant with just the sister there playing violin.
Yeah.
With Max cooking the food, who, you know, it sounded delicious, but like he could barely get into the exam. Like, let's be honest. Like even that, like I thought was weird. It's like he makes this comment of like, now I'm just like slanging eggs or something, you know, like a fry cook. But then like he pretty much says like, I want to learn how to do this, but like this is all I can do. But then he shows up with like Duck Lorraine and like walks out and is like, so I guess you took the exam, so now you're like a full-on chef, and like that's
how
it.
it
And like,
yeah, of course, duh.
yeah,
You know what I wish would have happened? Like, and this is something that would have come from Coming to America. I know that we probably only had LeBrock and Rex Manning for a day. They shot in 2 rooms in the same house. But I would have loved it if they showed up. You know what I mean? Like they followed the ballet there, and we could have seen them like fish out of water at the end. Them eating pigs on a blanket. Like that would have been like actual comic gold, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I do love the way that they talk about it when eventually, you know, he has to go back. The Emma finds out that who he really is, that he's engaged and, you know, is rightfully pissed. So he ends up going back. The wedding is gonna happen, and it all gets kind of resolved like within 2 minutes. Like there's not a lot of like back and forth between Kelly LeBrock, who was like, this wedding is gonna save our country. It takes like maybe 2 minutes of convincing, and she's like, okay, fine, go. And they talk about this small town that he's going back to like it is this Shangri-La, like beautiful wonderland. Like when in reality, it's just a diner with a white fridge and, you know, the inn. To your point, I would have loved to have seen them go and like visit the town and be like, ooh, look at this. Look at this shitty diner.
Yes.
Like,
I want to see her tottering around on like heels in the like snowy streets. Like that would have been hilarious.
The innkeeper would have been so excited to see royals like that.
Oh, well, that's speaking of that. Like, yeah, the innkeeper immediately spots him, and like, you know, his secret's safe with her. So you kind of think she's gonna like play a bigger role in this, but like then you kind of just don't get anything else from her. Like,
nope,
no.
I thought we were gonna have like nightly check-ins or something because she was actually a lot of fun. I enjoyed her. Yeah.
I agree. Like that was the most fleshed out of the side characters. Like I think she had 2 characteristics.
Yeah, she was delightful.
I liked it right for the marketing too. She's like, I'll keep your secret, but maybe you can tell them about this delightful little B&B. I was like, entrepreneur. Yes. Good for you.
Speaking of Kelly LeBrock, her accent.
Oof. Yeah.
A lot of concern. So I always thought Kelly LeBrock was British. Turns out
she not?
She is not. She was born in New York and then spent most of her childhood in the UK.
Okay.
So that's why she has
an accent. She has like a little bit of an accent, but I feel like she pumped it up for this role or something because
I've never heard a British accent on top of a British accent, which like, that's what it weird. Felt like.
It's like an accent turducken.
Like, or a British person trying to do an impersonation of what an American impersonation of a British person would be. Like,
oh my god,
this is some 3D chess. I can't keep up.
So he goes back to this beautiful town. They obviously get together, and then things amp up where like he proposes, I think the next day or something, like, you know, and that's kind of it. Like that's where we wrap up. But again, like I thought the whole thing was like, this stuff is always very quick in Hallmark, right? Like it's, you know, a few weeks and then he comes back, but usually we get a like year later, you know, or like a flash screen or something. It's like 3 days since they've met and now they're engaged and she apparently is a princess now. Like,
yeah. I mean, they get engaged and then they kiss for the first time.
Yes.
After only knowing each other
Like
for
God
3 days.
intended.
That is true. The other fun thing is they have like little wrap-up cards at the end, which I've never seen in any of these movies,
Yeah.
which they were terrible. Like it was
Oh
like
my God.
Max is now a famous chef and like owns his own restaurant. Like there was nothing but good. Even Todd.
Yeah.
Like Todd met someone and is now married. And like I think
The
his
used car
justice
part feels a little cold-blooded.
I
The used parts, damn, just call her a hoe.
Valid. That's true. Yeah. But still,
Although
Todd could be happy. You never know.
the prince doesn't even pay for her to go to college. She gets a freaking scholarship. So all this stuff about
It
selling
was for nothing.
was
Yeah,
for
because
nothing.
apparently
She
she's like a
Yeah.
brilliant violinist who ends up at the Philharmonic like right away.
I mean,
Yes.
he
Yeah.
definitely
After
pulled
going to
some
State
strings, right?
University, you know?
Yeah, he pulled some strings. That's some
Yeah.
nepotism shit right there. I'm
Yeah.
calling it. I'm calling it.
That is funny.
The
Yeah.
rich and the joke we didn't talk about it, but like my favorite
Yeah.
joke in this was actually when he starts to describe where he's from and he's like, Europe.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm from the country of Europe. It's fine. Like it's very meta, and I actually prefer it than trying to like.
Mhm.
I've seen that Christmas Prince thing on Netflix, and
Yep.
there's like a whole like fake kingdom that they make up,
Yep,
and this is
there
just like
is.
Yeah.
vaguely Europe. It's just vaguely Europe.
Yeah.
Doesn't
I do
matter.
appreciate. Yeah. It's Arendelle. Like it's just frozen. It's where we are.
Correct.
So I don't know anything else about the movie itself. Otherwise, we can kind of get into our recommendations. I'm sure I have other weird stuff that happened in here that I just can't remember.
No, I mean, I enjoy all the weird sort of continuity
Yeah.
inconsistencies, like the candles being very,
I
like,
noticed that.
very violently knocked off during the fencing
Yes.
scene, immediately to cut to them. They're like magic candles. They're like back in their handle holders for the rest of the thing. But I almost feel like the seams in this were part of the charm for me. Like,
Yes. Yep.
the castle was one room that we all, and then a very small normal kitchen.
Oh, that kitchen scene where like so we didn't even talk about that. So he's back home. Kelly LeBrock is pissed, and then they're like eating breakfast or something, and Duncan starts clearing the table. And Kelly LeBrock is just like, "Oh, we have people to do this." And then like they literally have a fight in the kitchen in front of the like two staff. And like Kelly LeBrock is pretty much screaming how like they're not humans, they can eat back here.
Yes, let them eat out of their troughs.
Not even a chair. Like,
Oh my god. Yeah,
yeah.
that kitchen is hilarious because it's a very nice kitchen. It is
Yeah.
not
But
a
it's
royal
tiny for,
kitchen.
I mean, they have events there. They'd have to have a huge kitchen.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah, but those
just
I
like-
don't know. You just wave your hand away. But
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
funny. It's like I said, part of the charm of it for me is how absurd some of these things are.
Yeah.
How like you could tell they were just like, okay, one shot, okay, go. All right, another shot, go.
Yep.
You can feel that.
I think
At
I
least there was-
missed
yeah.
out on the
Oh, go ahead.
like a lot of those prince or princess movies. They have like somebody in their family who has like a devious plot to like dethrone the person or like take their
Oh,
title
yeah.
or ruin something. And that's always one of my favorite parts of those because it's ridiculous and a little like mustache twirly. So I am sad that that was not in here.
Yeah, that
Was
should have been
the-
Todd. That was supposed to
Yeah,
be Todd. It just never
exactly.
happened.
Did you get excited every time there was a sinister shoulder in the foreground of the scene? You're like, here it is. No.
Come on. All right. Anything else? Otherwise, we can get into what's going to be a tough question. Is your happily ever after here? Who from this
right.
illustrious cast do you think you could spend the rest of your life with?
Ooh.
I think probably Queen
Kelly
LeBrock,
LeBrock.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like she's
like that
fairly
choice.
easygoing. Like I love Maxwell Caulfield, but he is a little too soft for me. I need
Yeah.
a little more edge, And like
Yeah.
she'd be keeping me on my toes with that accent. I'm like, what's it gonna be today?
Will she stop? Will she finally just give this up? Ariel, you're Kelly LeBrock as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's got to be Kelly LeBrock. If I could
Yeah.
just keep Todd from ever talking, then that might be okay. But if I can't do that, then I'll take Kelly
Todd,
LeBrock.
the first it was literally I think I turned to Leslie. I'm like, I think I have my happily ever after when Todd is just being reasonable about like you need to have some sort of income, Emma. You can't just run away. But
You're
then
like, that
yeah,
makes so
he
much
amped up.
sense.
So yeah,
Mhm.
you got to go with Kelly LeBrock.
Yeah.
Which I don't even think we really talked about her, but like I was shocked when I looked at her IMDb that there was really only 2 movies she was in that were like big. It was Weird
Hmm.
Science and Lady in Red. And then
Crazy.
after that, there's like 3 years and she did this movie with Steven Seagal.
That's the one I remember. 'Cause didn't
Yeah.
she marry Steven Seagal?
Yeah, they were married for quite a while. They had a couple kids too, I think.
Yeah.
Poor her.
Yeah. Hard to
Yeah.
kill.
Hard to kill,
And then
yeah.
after that, it's really just a bunch of stuff that, and you know, I'm not being mean here, but like you've never heard of. And
Right.
I just remember her being such a big presence, especially around like
Yeah.
Weird Science, where I just felt like she must have been in everything. And it turns
Yeah.
out, no, it's really only
I
like
think
2
she
or
just
3
made such an
movies.
impression. Like everybody talked about her. Boys had like posters of her on their walls.
Yeah.
Like, she was
Mhm.
kind of ubiquitous for like a few years, even if she wasn't in a ton of stuff.
I feel like
Yeah.
she was in a season of The Surreal Life too. Am I
Oh,
making
really?
that up?
I
Is
do
that a
not
fever
remember
dream?
that.
You might be thinking of Brigitte Nielsen.
No, I know for sure Brigitte was, but I
Okay.
feel like Kelly LeBrock was too. I don't know.
Was she?
I'm gonna Google it while you guys talk. I might have.
Yeah.
This might just be my fantasy, but like
I
I could
would
have
like
sworn
that
she
to be true
was.
because I'll go
Yeah.
watch that.
I have her IMDb in front of me and I'm not seeing it, but I'm in like the
Darn.
early 2000s. Yeah. She had a True Hollywood Story, I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think so. You might be making that up.
I
Oh,
might be.
Celebrity Fit Club. That might be what
That's
you're
what
thinking
it
of.
was. That's
Yeah.
what it was. I knew she was on something, and I remember it
Oh
being
my
pretty
God.
bleak. So
I
assumed it was
wiped
The Real
that
Life.
show out of my mind. What a just
Yes.
looking back, the most awful thing we've ever watched. Like,
Yes. Debrat was on there.
Oh my God.
oh,
Yeah,
it
that was
was-
rough. That was rough.
I don't remember her name, but I remember it was probably one of the last seasons. Oh, Takara.
Right.
She was a model, beautiful.
Yeah.
And Leslie and I
Stunning.
watched, and there was one episode where they were going over like, you know, what to eat and stuff. And she said, "But I'm still hungry." And Leslie and I quote that for the last 20 years.
Yes.
Like, still. Where the hell were we? So yeah, so that is A Prince for Christmas. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Where do you go with this, Ariel?
That's a hard one because see, I've seen all these other movies, and I would say that there are a number of them that are better than this one.
Mm-hmm.
But I still found this charming enough that like I wouldn't feel bad recommending it to somebody just because it's so dumb that it's kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that's valid for sure. Yeah. Rachel.
Yeah, I would say if you're a fan of this genre, skip it. This
Yeah.
one's not for you. You've seen better ones. It's not for you. However, if like me, you kind of enjoy kind of the disaster element of it and want to be entertained by the absurdity, like this one actually almost is a parody to the point, you know? So
Mhm.
I would say this would be a good one to like, if you just want to watch something so bad it's good, I think this qualifies. So I would say
Yeah.
thumbs up for that.
Yeah, I think that's valid. I would ask, like, if you're listening to this, I doubt you're like a hardcore Hallmark fan. Maybe you are and just enjoy the idiot stuff going on in my head. But like, I feel like this movie is perfect for this podcast. Like, it's the perfect amount of like, there's some enjoyable stuff, but it's also like completely ridiculous. So like, I think Ariel, like you said, you know, it's cheesy and you know it's goofy, but there's enough of that to like keep you entertained and actually enjoy it. So yeah, I would go thumbs up too, for sure. So yeah, there you go. What a fun surprise.
I kind of now want to make Rachel watch the one on Netflix. I can't remember what it's called, but it's like princesses and they happen to be like identical twins that had never met before.
Like a Parent Trap
girl,
situation?
Basically, but it's like a Christmas princess kind of a one on Netflix. There's 3 of them, and you find out in the 3rd one that there's like a triplet they didn't know about.
Oh, spoiler.
See you in December, Joe.
Oh, I completely got sidetracked by the surreal life, but I was curious what your take on Weird Science was watching it. Like, what is it? That movie's 30 years old probably now.
I think it's
Please
Uh-huh.
like
don't say more.
86.
Uh-huh.
So
I guess what was both of your experience with the movie when you were kids? Like I mean for me it was like right in the wheelhouse of 86. I would have been around like 10
mhm,
um or 8. So it was like those were the movies I watched on HBO.
Mhm.
So it like had a
mhm.
huge impact or whatever the word is. But I'm curious like what your kind of take was and then watching it again.
Yeah. So I hadn't watched it as much as a kid. Like I've seen all of the John Hughes movies a bunch of
Yep.
times, but Weird Science, I thought I had seen a lot, but then when I watched it, turns out what I had actually seen was the TV show that was on when I was a kid. I watched that a lot.
Ah,
So but it doesn't hold up great. I would say there's still,
yeah.
like, some really fun scenes, and Kelly LeBrock is, like, enjoyable to watch, but
She's the
there's
best
also
part.
some stuff
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
like, didn't age super well.
It's a lot of stuff that doesn't age
Yeah.
well, yeah.
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 Yeah, this is one that I loved growing up and watched over
Yep.
and over and over again, and I don't think I actually got a lot of the jokes, but
Yeah.
I was like it was kinda wacky and definitely a little bit sexy, and so, like, as a kid, you're like, "Ooh," and I was a huge John Hughes fan. I loved, what is his name? Not Michael C. Hall, Michael
Anthony
something.
Michael Hall.
Anthony Michael Hall, thank you. I loved him from The Breakfast Club and 16
Oh,
Candles, which is another one that has not aged well.
yeah.
So I would have like 2 weeks ago, I would have been like, "Yeah, I like Weird Science." Bill Paxton's in it. He's great. We
Oh,
He
love
is great.
Chet. And he still actually holds up and is pretty great. But I was pretty surprised when I went back and saw how poorly it is aged. Have
yeah.
you seen it recently?
Yeah, so Leslie and I during the pandemic kind of went on like, oh, let's revisit the John Hughes movies cuz huge for both of our
Yeah.
childhoods. Like that was right in our wheelhouse, like Breakfast
Mhm.
Club
Oh
and
yeah.
this and
Yes.
all
Yep.
those.
Pretty in
Like to
Pink.
the
Yeah.
point
Mhm.
where Leslie like loved them so much that like as a kid she wanted to move to the Chicago suburbs.
Oh,
And
Dang.
wow.
here she is with her prince.
There you go. Dreams do
Aw.
come true.
So we literally live in this area now. But like the first time I visited Chicago with her, it was for her birthday, and we just spent like a long weekend. And the Sunday before we left, we drove out to like the burbs and just did like a little guided, self-guided tour of like all the
That's
Fun.
spots.
cool.
Um, but so like 2 years ago or so, we started going through all the John Hughes movies again, and like one by one, we were like, "Oh boy, like
Oh
this is
boy.
not," like Uncle Buck. I think
Uncle Buck
still
holds
has
up.
its
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like there's some like 16 Candles. When we watched that, we were like, "Holy shit!"
It's
Like
so rapey and so
even
racist. Long Duck Dong is not
yeah,
great.
like I've got to imagine even back then, people were like, "Holy shit!" Like this
I
is,
don't
but
know.
yeah, yeah,
The 80s were wild, but like I wanted to leave my body. I had to keep pausing
yeah.
it because I couldn't just power through the scene in the bar.
Mm-hmm.
Do you
Oh
remember
my
that
god,
where
The
Anthony Michael Hall
bitches.
does that terrible accent?
it's
And
And
then
it
it
yeah.
keeps
carries
it just
on.
keeps going and going and going. Like, he will not shut up and use his normal
Mm-hmm.
voice again.
Yeah, that part was
It was
actually
bad.
the hardest part for me. There was a lot
Yeah,
of messed
yeah.
up stuff in that, but that part was I came like and to see American Ninja Warrior hero Steve James in that scene was very hard for me. Joe, I'm so sorry. What have you
No,
done?
no, absolutely. This is exactly what I wanted to talk about. So perfect. Yeah. So
Mhm.
yeah, long story short, or long story long, eh, we still. I think if you watch that, like, in no way can you watch it for the first time now, right?
No.
Like,
Yeah.
No.
I think it still holds a spot in our hearts because of how much we loved it as a kid. But now it's just like,
Mhm.
oh
Yeah, and
boy,
it
like,
still
Yeah.
has, like, a lot of those same John Hughes 80s beats
yeah,
to it that are
Yeah.
do feel, like, kind of warm and cozy and nostalgic and fun.
Mhm.
And then
yeah,
there's, like,
but
silly enough stuff in there too, like Chet being turned into the poop monster and the
I love
yeah,
that.
parents being frozen or whatever that make it entertaining, you know?
Yeah, I
yeah.
can't be objective about Bill Paxton. I just love him.
No.
Like, he'll always be Hudson
Yeah.
and yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because we've gone back, and I think this is maybe the perfect way to sort of summarize it, is we've gone back and shown our kids some of the movies that we loved when we were kids,
Mhm.
and we quickly realized that, like, all right, maybe some of these aren't great, and have been a little more cautious, and like
Mhm.
this Weird Science and like most of those movies are ones that like absolutely never, like I would
Yeah.
never like.
That's
Mm-mm.
probably the
So
right choice. Yeah.
yeah. um where the hell were we? All right. So smalltownfailingpodcast.com is the website. You can get back episodes and all that sort of fun. Cameo, the YouTubes, all that. Go enjoy. Instagram, if you follow, we do get questions that folks send in, or you can go to smalltownfailingpodcast@gmail.com and send them in. To this week, how is this movie different from every other quote unquote Prince movie on Hallmark? Um, I don't, Ariel, I know you kind of pointed out a few of them where there usually is like the guy who's trying to take over and all that sort of fun. But I don't know, anything else stick out to you? Because I have not watched many, unfortunately.
No, I mean, I feel like there are just like a few things that you need to have. Like there has to be a made up country. So this sort of has that. There's
Mm-hmm.
usually like a quirky cast of characters. This failed at that, but attempted. There's usually like the devious plot. This did not have that. And then there's always a plan to either like save the country or save the small town where the American girl, came from or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And so I kind of feel like this movie failed on almost all of those
Yeah.
fronts, but it sort of has all of the elements you need for it.
Yeah.
It's not very
It's
different than any of them.
It's interesting because as you, I think, were explaining it, Rachel, where like it turns out she didn't even need his money to go to college. And
Right.
like, and when you look back, it's like she had already made the decision to sell the diner before he walked in. Like, it almost reminds me of, I don't know if you've ever heard that theory or someone explain that the first Indiana Jones movie, Indiana Jones has no
Yeah.
impact on like
Oh,
anything that
yeah.
happens in the final outcome. Like it's almost like Duncan has no impact on like anything that
No.
happens, because maybe he sat next to Max and, he filled out his form, but like Max would have got there. Like,
Right. Everything basically
Yeah.
happens the way it was going to happen
yeah.
anyways, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe go back and watch. Maybe Duncan is actually a ghost, and like that's the like,
Ooh.
oh,
I like this.
only Emma can see him. Like it's yeah. Um, all right, and then sorry, the second one. Would this movie have been better if Prince had played the Prince? And I
Yes.
mean,
Yeah, of
yeah,
course. I mean,
right.
most
I
Like
movies would be
mean,
better if Prince played a character in them, so
I
yes.
mean, this isn't that different than the plot of Purple Rain.
that is when I just read this. That one I have not revisited in a long time, and I'm curious, like how that holds up. Funny enough,
It's not
yeah,
I mean,
great. I
I
haven't
love
seen that in,
it,
like, 20 years probably.
but
yeah,
he's pretty abusive.
Oh,
He
yeah.
like
okay.
I do
picks her up
remember
and
that.
throws her in a lake at one point,
Oh,
and
boy.
it's not great, but it's Prince, so who cares?
I was probably 6 when that came out, and now that I think about it, like, what the hell was I watching that? Like, no, this shouldn't have been. And like, I had the cassette, and I
Hell
loved it. Like,
yeah.
the songs were all about like sex,
Oh
and I'm
yeah.
like 6-year-old in the car listening to it with my parents. Like,
Yeah.
dear God. What a
Yeah.
weird scene. I remember once driving and I was listening to Run DMC, and at the time I didn't even know what swearing was. And I remember my mom asking, "Who is this, Joey?" And I'm like, "Run DMC, ma, they're great, blah." And then like years later I was listening and I'm like, "Oh, I get why she was asking now." Like
Amazing.
all right, last thing I need from you is I started doing this thing that I think I stole from Rachel Ray, where she has her current guest ask her next guest a question.
Oh,
So
Ooh.
Eric left one for you two. He did not know who was going to be the next guest. I don't know who's going to
okay.
be the next guest. So Eric left one for you both. And if you haven't listened to the last episode, The Secret Ingredient, Eric from Bloody Good Horror was on, and it was wonderful. So you should go check it out. But Eric's question for you both was, what is your favorite guilty pleasure teen drama from the 90s or early 2000s. So like his was, I want to say Dawson's Creek or Felicity, like one of those.
Mhm.
What was each of yours? Or did you have one? I didn't watch a ton of them. I think the
I watched
OC
a
was the
lot
only
of
one
them.
we watched a bit of. But other than that, not many. So Ariel, can you pick one?
Oh, she can pick one.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely watched like a lot of Dawson's Creek. I have rewatched a lot of Dawson's Creek over the years.
Amazing.
Roswell too. I loved Roswell when that one was on. Nobody ever talks about
Oh,
that, but it was
is there?
ridiculous.
I think I always assumed that movie was about, or that show was about aliens.
It
Was
is.
it
It
not?
was.
So it's
Oh, okay.
basically about this girl who falls in love with a guy who turns out to be an alien, and he's like one of 3 aliens in the body of like really hot teenagers. And then they have to like,
Oh.
there's this whole like plot line where like government agents are chasing them, and they're finding other aliens, and
Wow. No
yeah.
idea. But
It's very
but
dramatic.
can you pick a favorite? Like, do you have a favorite?
A favorite of those? Oh,
Yeah.
probably Dawson's Creek, just
All
because it's
right.
like a
Yeah.
nostalgic fave. Yeah.
That seems to be what was there ever like battles between like Dawson's Creek people and 90210 people, or did those
One
maybe
Tree
the
Hill.
one tree hill
I feel
that
like
was
wasn't
like
90210 almost over by the time
did
Dawson's
they
Creek
not
started?
overlap
I don't
much? Yeah.
remember. Yeah.
Rachel, did you have one?
So, I mean, the first thing I thought of was one that I don't feel guilty at all about, which was Buffy. I was very,
Oh
very into
yeah.
Buffy.
Oh yeah.
But I think now at the time I wasn't guilty about it, but like retroactively because of what one of the main cast members got involved with later was Smallville. Like the
Oh.
whole Nixium of it all kind of makes it a guilty pleasure now. But
Oh.
yeah, because like that was the show that Chloe What's Her Face was on, but I did
Oh, right,
really
right, right.
Who became the
but I
cult
did
leader?
really enjoy that at the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like
Wow.
very much rooted for her and Clark to get together. I was like, get out of here, Lois. We don't need you. Get out of here,
Wow.
Lana Lane. Ain't nobody got time for you. But now I realize he made the right choice because she turned into a human trafficker.
Yeah, that's not great. Nexium, by the way,
Uh-huh.
upstate New York also, like parallel with this
Yeah.
Oh, that's
movie.
right.
Yeah, I don't know if Eric's ever told you, but like literally our hometown. Like we were in Burnt Hills, and then Clifton Park, where they all lived, was the town over. They were like our high school football rivalry.
Oh,
Um,
that's crazy.
yeah, a lot of wonderful things coming from upstate New York. The Unabomber was from
Nixium.
there.
Unabomber. You.
His mom used to come in and shop at the grocery store while I was working. Like
Are you
it was,
serious? Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Crazy.
it's a whole thing up there. All right, so not to put you on the spot, but a question for our next guest, and it can be about the movie, it can be about anything. Like Eric's was, the guilty pleasure. Andy was on a couple episodes ago, and his was about like, what are you leaving behind from 2023?
Ooh.
I should have
Good
told you about
question.
this before, but
Okay.
you're completely on the spot
Rachel's
now.
good at thinking on her feet.
Okay. So this
She's
movie
better than I am.
had some very toxic dudes in it, right?
Oh,
Yep.
So I want to know, what is your number one red flag?
Oh, that's
Oh,
a
that's
good
good.
one.
What is both of your
Rachel
number
has
one red
dated a
flag?
lot of toxic dudes over the years.
Yeah, I mean, I was never really good at spotting the red flags. I was good at recognizing them after the fact.
I mean,
Right.
most people are, right? Like that's
Yeah. I mean, like I would say what is my number one red flag? This is not a red flag, but like a messy, like a loud eater. Like that is like you can say a lot of wild shit and I'll be like, "Oh, yes, under the rug it goes." But if you are a loud eater, it's a
Ugh.
wrap.
That's something that I feel like will just grate on you over time, even if you think that you can handle it, and then eventually you just snap. Yeah, I get that.
Do you have a red
Ariel?
flag, Ariel?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Ooh, if they listen to Joe Rogan. That's a red flag.
That's a good one.
If they're rude to wait staff.
That is literally
Yeah.
mine. I was going to say too. Yeah, that it just that is not something I think I could put up with for the rest of my life. Like it just makes me so uncomfortable, and then I know my food is getting spit or something worse. Like,
Yeah. And
I
you
can't live
deserve
like
it.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. All right, that'll kind of do things. Thank you both for coming on. Where can everybody listen to the glorious Zombie Grrlz podcast zones?
Yeah, so Joe is pronouncing it that way because we spell it Grrlz.
Z's.
And you can find us anywhere you get your podcasts. We're the Zombie Grrlz Network. Rachel and I do a podcast called More Deadly, so you can search for that too. We are at ZG Podcasts on basically every social media platform that exists because Rachel keeps expanding into new ones.
I'm a citizen of the internet. You never know. Maybe we're gonna be big on Blue Sky. You don't know.
Wait, is that a real thing? I have no idea.
Yeah.
Yes, you need to get into Blue Sky, my friend. I'll send you they've opened it up now. For a long time it was invite only, but it's opened up now.
What is it? Like, what would you compare it to?
I mean, it's the thing that the guy from Twitter has made. Like,
it's the more thing where you're like limited in characters and stuff.
So,
I see.
It's like Twitter, but less anti-Semitic.
Oh, well, that's fun. Yeah.
So you're welcome, Ariel. Again, feel free to cut anything I say.
I assume they're going to use that as like their tagline. It's like Twitter, but less anti-Semitic. I would go to that.
I mean, it's a selling point for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
All right. Well, thank you both again. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you putting up with this movie and the rambling for the last hour.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yes. I don't know what we're doing next time. I don't know who will be here, but we'll figure it out, and it'll be wonderful. All right. I think that's it. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. I like your little music.
I know,
it's nice,
okay.
right?
Yeah,
Royalty free.